62 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. We're moving on to the UConn Huskies, and this is another FBS independent team that, well, hasn't been independent for long, right? Just moved out of the American Athletic to go join the Big East and other sports like basketball. But this has still just not been a solid football team for quite a few years. It is a football program that has been kind of going by the wayside as of late. However, they did bring in a new head coach, much like New Mexico State, who we talked about earlier today. And UConn's bringing in some promising transfers as well. So can the Huskies be a little bit of surprise and take some steps in the right direction in 2022? Or is this going to be another disappointing year for a first-year head coach? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, guys. Means I'm doing your favorite teams, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded. And for fans of the UConn Huskies out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot more than me. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be happy to see with what you guys have to say. Let's talk about UConn 2022. No power rankings for FBS independent teams, obviously. But UConn was bad. UConn was bad last year. Connecticut went 1-11 last year. Just not great offensively or defensively. Offensively, only 265 yards per game with around 15.5 points per game. One of the worst offenses in the entire nation last year. And, well, their defense still wasn't great either. 452 yards per game with 38.5 points per game. Both stat lines, offensively, defensively, just abysmal. And UConn definitely is going to be looking to turn that around in 2022. And they're hoping a new head coach can do it. Jim Mora is coming in to be that head coach. So maybe some optimism here among Husky fans that things may start to progress in the right direction with Jim Mora at the helm. When you look at players that are leaving this program, starting quarterback Steven Krajewski is gone. He had 1,217 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 picks. Yeah, stat line wasn't great, but was also the third leading rusher on this team, had 3 rushing touchdowns, which that was the most number of rushing touchdowns on this team last year, was just 3. And then Zach Zergiotis gone as well, 325, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year. You also have running back Kevin Mensah, who is gone, was the second leading rusher on this team, but although you could argue he was the best running back on this team, had 314 yards on 104 carries. I believe he's gone pro. Looking at the wide receiver room, you don't lose a lot of big names from last year, but Mora is gone, as well as Hairston. So you lose those 2 guys off the wide receiver position. However, your tight end, Jay Rose, 283 yards and a touchdown. You lose his production, as well as Jace Medlock, gone off the tight end position as well. Ryan Van DeMark, he is gone off this team, probably your best offensive lineman from a season ago. And then Travis Jones, which by far you could have considered to be their best defensive player, had 48 tackles, 4.5 sacks, was a force on this UConn defense. You lose him as well as Lawal Ugwak off the defensive line, had 34 tackles a season ago. Omar Fort is gone off the linebacking group, 47 tackles a year ago. And then a pair of defensive backs are transferring out of this program, Jalen Farrell and Jeremy Lucian. Lucian transferred over to Vanderbilt. I believe Farrell is now over at UMass. Could be wrong on that, though, but I'm pretty sure he is over at UMass. Combined, about 60 tackles, 6 pass defended, and Jeremy Lucian with 2 interceptions a season ago. But looking at talent coming back for this UConn team, Taekwon Roberson, transferring over from Penn State. If you remember, he was kind of the guy that started that Iowa game with Sean Clifford being hurt, and then things just didn't go their way. But transferring over from Penn State, pretty good pickup for UConn. I know Taekwon Roberson, not one of the better quarterbacks in the nation, but from a Power 5 school, just didn't really work out for him at Penn State with Sean Clifford there. He's transferring over to UConn. Leading rusher Nathan Carter is coming back. He had, 578 yards, 2 touchdowns a season ago. So you get Nathan Carter back, as well as a plethora of wide receivers. Keelan Marion coming back. He was your lead target with 474 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kevin's Claricious 260 yards and 3 touchdowns, as well as Nigel Fitzgerald, who's a transfer over from Old Dominion. You get him in, as well as Brandon Nemensky is a tight end coming back who had 122 yards and a touchdown a season ago. Defensively, you got Kevon Jones coming back, as well as Eric Watts. And then Sequoia McDuffie, I believe, is a transfer, over from Buffalo, so should be there on the defensive line. Jackson Mitchell and Ian Swenson coming back for this team. I believe those were your two leading tacklers a season ago for this UConn team. And Marquez Bembry coming over from Kentucky, another Power 5 transfer for UConn and Jim Mora, as well as Durante Jones, Malik Dixon, Trey Wortham, among some others in the defensive back group. Taking a look at the schedule for the UConn Huskies, it looks a little something like this. Man, is this a tough schedule, but there are winnable games here on this schedule. There are very, very winnable games. On the road at Utah State, probably going to be a little bit of a very tricky game for them. Again, there are no conference games, so we're just diving right in, looking at this schedule. On the road against Utah State, probably going to be a hard game for UConn. That's the reigning Mountain West champion, although they're losing a lot of talent from the team a season ago. Still a group that's going to play some pretty solid football this year. At home against Central Connecticut State, absolutely a winnable game there for the UConn Huskies. But then your next 4 games after those first 2, UConn probably can start off the season 1-1 if they can get that win against Central Connecticut State. When you look at the next 4 games, oh man, it's tough to find a win there. It's pretty much near impossible to find a win there. Syracuse, Fresno State at home, 2 teams that probably are not going to open the season with a national ranking like the 2 squeezed in the middle there. But Syracuse, that's an orange team that kind of struggled to get results last year. They're going to fight, and they can push their way into a bowl game. We know how good Fresno State was last year. They're bringing back guys like Jalen Cropper. Hayner is coming back as well at the quarterback position. Still going to be a dangerous Fresno State team, although UConn gets both of them at home. Now, then they got to go on the road and play 2 Power 5 teams. I mean, on the road at Michigan, reigning Big Ten champs, flat out going to be a hard one to win, and go on the road in the Big House to get that one done. On the road against NC State, same thing. Both those teams could prove to have a top 10 ranking coming into this season. Those are 2 teams right there that I really like coming into next year. I think can push for not only a conference championship in their respective conferences, but the college football playoff as well. Just 2 near impossible games for this UConn roster. When you look at the back half of the schedule, things do get easier in the back half. You got to go on the road to play FIU. That was not a very good football team last year. That is a winnable game for the UConn Huskies. On the road at Ball State, a little bit less of a winnable game, but maybe UConn can go in there and surprise some people. Who knows? It is college football after all. Crazier things have happened, but I mean, Ball State losing quite a bit from that team as well, but Ball State still figures to be fairly solid right around the bowl game mark this year as well. Then you get another Power 5 game with Boston College, but you get to play this one at home. Still don't see UConn having much luck against the Golden Eagles, who return Phil Dracovic, Zay Flowers, Pat Garwell, lots of offensive weapons against a defense that wasn't very good a season ago. And when you look at the back half of their schedule, the back 3 games, all against FBS independent teams. At home against UMass, another winnable game. At home against Liberty, I think some people will consider that a winnable game until you really look at this Liberty schedule. Or not schedule, excuse me. When you look at this Liberty roster, this is a Liberty roster that, well, they don't have Malik Willis at quarterback, but they are and they lose a lot of defensive talent, but they're returning quite a bit on the offensive end, and they're bringing in Charlie Brewer. And if he can have a year like he did in 2019, Liberty is dangerous. And then on the road at Army. And Army flat out is going to be a good football team this year. Could end up proving to be their best team in their head coach's era. For the time that head coach has been there, his name is escaping my mind right now, but could prove to be his very best team. And UConn, a little scheduling flick that I think you guys should notice. They end the season on November 19th instead of November 26th. So there's that for you. I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do more percentage-based outlook. Tell me predict a team's record. If the game's in red, I just don't see you winning the game. If the game is in orange, I still don't see you winning, but it is college football, and upsets can happen. Yellow, you're 50-50, high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green, games that you should win. You got to watch out for the team on the other side of the ball, though. In games in green, I have you good as winning. So Michigan, NC State, Boston College, maybe even to some extent Fresno State, Syracuse, Liberty, and Utah State. But definitely Michigan, NC State, Boston College. I have those games in the red. If you really wanted to, you could push for Fresno State, Syracuse, Utah State, Liberty, even Army, those kind of games into the red there as well. They're kind of on that edge for me right now. And I am leaning to them more being an orange game because, again, UConn, I think maybe can surprise Syracuse. I think late in the season, if they've got enough things figured out, maybe can surprise Liberty, especially if Liberty takes lots of steps back from where they were a season ago. But then when you look at some winnable games on the schedule, Central Connecticut State, that's a winnable game. I have that game in yellow-green, an FCS opponent, not a very good one at that. Winnable game for the UConn Huskies and keeping it in state with Central Connecticut. On the road against FIU, I think that is a winnable game there as well, even though it's on the road. FIU was not a very good team last year. Ball State, who knows what this Ball State team is going to look like. I know the game is in orange, and UConn's got to go play on the road, but maybe they can pull off a shocker. Unlikely in my opinion, but it might just happen. And then, of course, at home against UMass, another just plain not very good football team. UConn can go ahead and easily beat UMass. Overall, when I look at this UConn team, I do see a little bit of improvement from year one. I don't know if it's the offense is going to get better or the defense takes a couple steps up, but this team did add pieces that will help it get better. Now, will it translate to wins? Probably not with this schedule. I got UConn going 2-10, same record projection as I had New Mexico State in. 1-11, I see them winning at least one game this year. I mean, with Central Connecticut, FIU, UMass on the schedule, probably going to win at least one, and then 4-8 as that high, because I really do think that UConn added pieces to help them get better. I just don't know necessarily that translates to wins in year one with Jim Mora. So that's going to do it for my prediction for the UConn Huskies. Make sure you guys leave a like, comment, subscribe, anything you can to help support the channel. It does mean a lot to me. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.